welcome to the show, Jay Pepper from Tigertailz.
Yeah, hi Ritchie, how are you doing, guys? Great
Jay,
to be here.
how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, it's unbelievable that I have you now in the show, because I remember very well when I heard the very first time Young and Crazy, 1987. I thought, what the hell, you know? This is Motley Crue on speed. You know, this was crazy. And we talk about a little bit about your history. You know, I always ask my guests how everything started in your life as a musician, how you became a metalhead, how everything started with you.
Oh wow. Well, I'm like super old, so I got into music. You know, my parents were like big into music, my dad particularly, and he had back in the 70s over here. I don't know if it's called the same thing over there, but we had what was called, we bought a radiogram. It was like a record player and a radio all in one, in like a cabinet thing, and you put your records in the middle. And when everyone used to go out, I just used to put my dad's records on, and the first music I got into was the Righteous Brothers, believe it or not. Yeah, and it went on from there. And you know, my dad, he still loves music now, and he goes out dancing. He's amazing. But yeah, it went on from there to like T-Rex. I got into the bands of the 70s at the time, Slade, and particularly those sort of things, Mud, and you know, that was my introduction to it. But I've never forgotten that first listening to the Righteous Brothers, and particularly You've Lost That Loving Feeling. I know it's not metal at all, but it was done by Phil Spector, and if you listen to it on proper stereo, particularly now on headphones, it's all in and out your left and right ears. Yeah, you know, it starts in one ear and then comes the other. And I was actually fortunate enough to meet Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers, and it was like the most amazing experience to meet that person when that first song touched you, whatever your song might be, you know. That's what it was for me. It was just an incredible experience. So yeah, and it just went on from there, progressed into more rock music at the time, from Slade to Status Quo, which I know are not maybe known to many people, maybe in the Philippines or around the world, but they're a massive band in Europe, and in the 70s they were like, you know, a huge band.
I only based in the Philippines. I'm originally German, you know? So Status Quo was very big.
Very big in Germany. Yeah, yes, yeah.
It is.
So, and I was fortunate to meet just literally the last few weeks Francis Rossi for the first time. So I kind of met most of my heroes, and it's quite bizarre to meet those people who yeah, how it all started. I mean, that was my introduction to it all. Yeah.
You know, it's everything started with me with Elvis Presley in 1975. You know, and of course then I discovered all the greats, like from the 50s, 60s. You know, the 60s was a very, very important time, you know, for music. And the Righteous Brothers, yeah, oh come on, it's unbelievable.
Definitely, and I think as we move on through the generations, you know, and we all think what we're doing when we're in our 20s, you know, when we're riding that crest of the wave, whether you listen to music or whether you're in a band, we all think that what we're doing is, you know, the thing, as it were, you know, the real thing. But we forget what's gone on before, you know, the music that from the past generation or decade is like they're dinosaurs now, you know, we're very dismissive of it. And we're all like that when we're younger, and I was too in my 20s, and when Tigertailz was starting, we were just all about what we were doing and the scene and all that kind of thing, and everything that had gone before it was just boring and old and cruddy. But I go back now and I listen to this stuff, and I'm really into the retro kind of rock stuff now, like Bad Company, The Faces. I think The Faces are probably one of the greatest rock bands that's ever existed. People go on
with
about
Rod
the Rolling
Stewart
Stones. I'm sorry?
With Rod Stewart?
Yeah. The original Faces with Rod Stewart, and the Small Faces before them, with Stevie Marriott. I mean, stuff that I thought was all old school then when I was in my 20s and just very dismissive of it. You go back now and never mind the Rolling Stones and never mind the Beatles and all. Listen to those bands. The Faces were like the greatest rock and roll band ever, with Rod Stewart in his prime, Ronnie Wood,
yes.
Jeff Beck at a point, and just what a Ronnie Lane, just the most amazing rock band. Bad Company, Paul Rodgers. So I'm kind of going back and listening to all that music that kind of I bypassed really. When I was in my early 20s, and I would suggest everybody does that, because as I say, we're very dismissive of what's gone on before, but it's actually incredible music.
I think because it was a handmade music, this was the honest kind of rock and roll in the 70s, like the sweet Slade especially. What Noddy Holder's voice was so powerful, was like unbelievable. Also Uriah Heep, I must say, the English the English musician scene was unbelievable.
Incredible.
New wave of British heavy metal. Come on, it was a blast. When this hit, when Iron Maiden and all the greats. I had the pleasure to have Rob Weir here from Tigers of Pantang.
Yeah.
How much this music I loved. I loved Americans as well. I must say, Motley Crue was for me very, very important. Or White Snake, not to forget. So when this glam stuff started, what was the trigger? Was it Motley Crue or Twisted Sister when they opened this stuff?
For us, you mean?
Yes,
for
Tigertailz.
No, it was actually, believe it or not, I mean, we started from the T-Rex side of things, from Mark Bolan and T-Rex and Slade, you mentioned there. I mean, Slade, Noddy Holder's voice goes without saying, what an amazing voice, but the songs, the songs are so good, as you've seen from when Quiet Riot, covered a few of their tunes and had even bigger hits, But if you listen to the Slade back catalogue, I mean, the tunes are just so amazing. Even when they came back around in the 80s, they had that kind of revival for a period. Even then, the songs are just amazing. They really had a knack. And as you say, that British scene at the time, when you look at the Britain as a whole, the bands that were coming out of it, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, it went on from Rainbow to Whitesnake, but you had ELO, Slade, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's Welsh bands like Budgie, Scottish band Nazareth, and I mean, there's just a whole wealth of amazing rock music that's kind of just sort of ebbed away, really, and people forget about it. And the 80s, the American hair metal scene, which we became kind of embroiled with, not that I was really ever into it that much. Van Halen, I guess that was a big influence on us. Early Van Halen.
David Lee Roth.
Yeah, because we were kind of doing that before the hair metal movement started, but it was when we got Stevie James in the band, the singer on Young and Crazy. he'd been in LA shortly before that, and it was all just kind of just starting to brew there, you know, Poison, and none of that had happened at that point. But he came back and he was very aware of what was going on, and kind of where we were kind of, you know, we were in that ballpark field, but weren't going too over the top, because I was never really into that kind of stuff. You know, I was into the image, and I've always thought about being in a band, you owe it to the fans to not just get up there in a jeans and t-shirt. I know that works for some bands, but personally, I think the onus is on, you know, people, the artist, to entertain people both musically and visually. You know, it doesn't have to be completely over the top, but I've always thought that you know, you should look like a rock star as well. You know, I think that a lot of that's been lost. You know, particularly nowadays. You know, all we've got is people who look like they need a good shower and a shave. You know what I mean? Most of the bands at the moment, and they're all full of this angst and stuff. You know, I mean. But you look at, as I say, you go back to the 70s and look at those rock stars then, and they were, you know, I mean, Rod Stewart, he still looks like he is a rock star. He looks amazing, you know, and he's in his 80s, and so does, you know, Mick Jagger, Ronnie Wood, Keith Richards. You know, they still look great because they're so cool guys. And I mean, we were kind of doing that sort of thing, but when Stevie joined the band, it all went up a notch, you know, and Kerrang wanted to do the interview, and that was the bit that we really kind of laid it on thick, and it defined us, that first feature in Kerrang, because the moment we went down that road, it was like everybody wanted to talk to us. And yes, we immediately got a big following, but what also happened is we immediately alienated a large proportion of the rock world, you know, fan base, because people just hated the image. Past it. So you were very much, and there's still an element of that today, I think. You know, people are very much like, they can be very derogatory just because, you know, oh, you look like chicks, you know, you're gay, or it's like, really, you know what I mean? In the 21st century, we're still talking about that, but it's still there, you know. And very much at the moment, there's this big turn on of the bands, and all, like I said, that whole testosterone thing, you know, angst, and it doesn't sit well with me. I don't. You know, I'm all up for aggressive and rock music, and it needs to be, and you make a statement from it. But I think it loses its way, and every time what happens is it resets itself, and what comes through is actual, just genuine rock and roll bands. That's what survives.
Yes.
In my opinion,
when I saw the video, You Can't Stop the Rock. You know, for me, this is a tribute to the past, because now you're I guess you're in the 60s now.
Almost, yeah.
Almost.
1 year.
So
you
born 64?
64, yeah.
Me too. So.
Oh, there we go. So you're 59 as well.
Yeah, not yet. In December, I'm 59.
Okay.
So
yeah,
you know, for me, this is a tribute, and I have a smile in my face, because you live to last, let's say, nearly 40 years now, you did it. You proved it. You was there. You did it. And I love, for example, I have so many young bands. They are in the 20s and they bring back the 80s. And some bands even the 70s vibes. And I love it. I love to talk to the original guys like Tigers of Pantang, or not long ago I had Rudy Sarso here. And he mentioned something special when he was with Ozzy in England in the early 80s, and he came back to America. He said, and now I know how it works. I know how it works in Europe. And that's why they brought it, and they had this. Of course, Kevin DeBro had this Noddy Holder voice, kind of, and that's why. So he was very smart. He brought this back from England to America, and the very first band in history to have a #1 Billboard album with metal.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, exactly that, and I mean, Quiet Riot were doing okay before that, but it's no secret to anyone that the moment they release "Come On, Feel the Noise" and Mama, We're All Crazy Now. Boom, because they're incredible songs, aren't they? It doesn't matter what you think about what genre of music, rock music you're into. Those are amazing songs, and you rap in.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? In the 70s, Slade was big. It was like
I saw them. I saw them a number of times in the 70s.
And
I actually saw them.
Quiet Riot hit #1.
Yeah.
Can you imagine on the way to the bank? And they open the bank, suddenly that door for you.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing that we don't mention very often, maybe not that obvious to many people listening, but a lot of those bands that were huge and still are huge were from what we call the Midlands areas, the middle of the UK, the Birmingham area. So like Black Sabbath, ELO and Slade are just down the road in Wolverhampton, like a few miles away. That whole just Midlands area produced so many incredible bands. Judas Priest, Sabbath. You had the spin-off of Roy Wood and Wizard, ELO and Slade, obviously. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of absolutely massive bands from that just small little region of a, circumference of about 30 miles. It's just incredible.
What is incredible, the voices also. There's something in the genes in your British singers, like Halford, or like all this, or not to forget Tom Jones. What a voice!
He's a Welshman. He's from up the road from me.
Yeah,
he's like 3 miles up the road from me. So
you ever met him?
No, no. Strange, but Welsh from Wales, where we like singing more choir kind of things, but like that Tom Jones voice. But there's some other great singers to me, like I said, Budgie from Wales. You had some of the UFO guys like Paul Chapman from UFOs from Cardiff. I mean, there's a whole range of Phil Campbell lives up the road from Motorhead. There's a lot of people from around this area. Feeder, they're not necessarily a rock or metal band, but a very big indie band, Feeder. From just down the road, so there's a lot of history from quite a small area, really small country,
You even see the past members are so many in the career of from 1983 start everything, right?
Yeah.
The longest was with you. Unfortunately, passed away was Pepsi Tate.
Yeah.
He was from 1983 to 2007.
Yeah.
With you. Tell me about Pepsi Tate. What was special about Pepsi Tate?
Well, he was the driving force to the band. I mean, me and him, in fairness. But from a creative point of view, he was an art student. And when I met him originally, I applied from an advert in like a music shop for they were looking for a guitar player. And I went along to an audition, and I thought it was going to be a band, and it just happened to be him and a drummer, his friend Ian Welsh, who was the first drummer in Tigertailz. And we jammed for a bit, and Pepsi was, I'm talking like 82 or something like that. And Pepsi was very much looked like, like an art student, like leg warmers, he was a really kind of like bohemian kind of look about him. And I got on okay with him, but I wanted to join a band, an established band. I didn't really want to, build something from the ground up at that point. So I wasn't really interested. But I went away, and we, didn't speak. There was obviously no internet or mobile phones back then. It was literally just not everybody even had a landline, a normal phone. But so it was months later, and I bumped into, just by chance, in a club, and we kind of had a chat, and it went on from there. But we formed the band then, and he became, with his artistic streak for the branding, much of what you still see now, the Tigertailz logo, the cat with the finger, the Love Bomb Baby image, was designed by him, and we still use it now because it was that powerful of an image and brand.
Tried to tell you how I feel about you, babe. I think you know how much I care, 'cause I'm your slave. Tomorrow's dreams are fading, one thing's on my mind. I need some love and honey, don't leave me on the line. Never felt this way before. Ooh, you got me begging, I want more. When I see you, I'm going to fall in love again. Emotions hold me as I fall in love again. Yeah, tried to help myself, oh baby, let me in. I'm so helpless as I fall in love again.
And also musically, he was. We all had very diverse, come from very diverse musical backgrounds. He was really into that. So he and I and Kim also, we didn't speak for about 12 years. It wasn't until like 2004, 5 or something that we started speaking again. So when we came back around, and he was very reluctant about doing any kind of comeback. We'd had a couple of labels come to us and wanted to reissue stuff. Demolition Records, who I think Twisted Sister and like Y&T were on at the time, they wanted to do something, and also then Sanctuary Records, like the Iron Maiden label, were reissuing a lot of back catalogue stuff, and they wanted to do some stuff. So we kind of went along with it initially, but he wasn't keen at all. But then once we put something out, and we suddenly got asked, people thought, oh, they're back, and there was this big buzz about it for a while, and we got asked to do a load of really big festivals, and he was kind of got more into it. So we'd only, when he started to get ill, we'd only been back around for like, oh my gosh, only about a year. And then he got really ill, and then, we'd done these massive, amazing gigs and thought, man, this is great, we're kind of cool. But he and I had made a pact. We said, we're not going to go into this again. It's not going to take over our lives like it did the first time round. We're just going to, do it when we feel like doing it and not let it take over our lives. So he and I had that agreement, and we were both on the same page with that, because we were both doing things outside of music, and we were quite happy with that. We didn't want the band taking over our lives again. But we started doing these amazing gigs, and he was like, okay, this is fun, I could see the benefit of doing it. And then just tragically, literally within a year, he got really ill, and we couldn't do it anymore, and then obviously sadly passed away.
Yeah.
Which is a
You're
huge
still doing some memory concerts for charity, right?
Yeah, so his wife, his widow, Sian, set up, he died of pancreatic cancer, and she set up a charity to fund research into that, particularly the stem cell research, which is really gaining some real traction and helping a lot of people. And it still funds here locally in Wales, a research centre, and they've raised, I've lost count, there was hundreds of thousands of pounds. So, it still goes on, and it's still active, which is amazing. They pay for research students and things. And so, whilst it's tragic, it's something good at least has come out of that. And I know he'd be very proud of that.
When I interviewed Rudy Sasso, he told me the last day he was with Frankie Banali, which was his yeah, his drama. He'll tell that this was like his brother. He was with Pepsi when he passed away.
I saw him the day or so before, yeah, which was not good. I mean, that was really, I mean, it's never any good anybody, passing away from cancer. But Pepsi's demise is he got in. It seemed to prolong. He got in such a really bad state health-wise. It wasn't. I didn't like seeing him like that, and I know he wouldn't like himself seeing like that. So it wasn't a pleasant experience, no. And I'm glad I did it, but I'll always remember him as being the fun kind of blonde bombshell that he was. I'd rather remember that.
It was important for me we talk about him because when I saw, oh my God, he was since '83 together until 2007. I mean, this is a long time, This is like longer than a marriage, some marriage,
Yeah.
So
well, that's what bands are like. If people, we get a lot of criticism about people, the revolving door of people being in this band. I mean, but some of the things you have no control over, and when somebody gets ill, terminally ill with cancer, and you can't save them, what are you supposed to do?
Yes.
It's just life stuff, and it's brutal and it's horrible. And I didn't think we could carry on afterwards, but and it was weird. Y&T became really good friends of ours, and we were due to go out with them, and we thought, well, there's no way we can. And anyway, we did. Cut a long story short, because I kept thinking, and this is the bottom line with it. I kept thinking, I knew him. I knew what he was like, and he was very much a live for today kind of guy.
Who cares about my life? Who cares if I live before I die? I'll take my pain, save my soul before I go insane. To be free is what we're fighting for. Forever young will be the dogs of war.
desire and no intention to impose our form of government on anyone else.
I think there's always some time distance from Westbones to Original Sin was from 95 to 2003, then was Berserk 2006, 2007 Thrill Pistol, and then was a gap again to 2015. Was it this time again you thought we hang it up?
We went through. There's always, it's really difficult keeping a band together, you know. And we had, you know, I can't remember the issues at the time, but it just what happens is you roll along and the band's kind of working okay, and then it gradually something or someone normally becomes a problem, and we had issues over when Pepsi died. We'd been using, a friend of ours stepped in, a guy called Glenn Quinn, who's a brilliant musician, and he was kind enough. He's actually a guitar player, but he stepped in and played bass because he was just helping out initially. And we rolled on like that for quite a few years, and it was working great, you know, it was fine. And then we thought, perhaps we ought to get a permanent bass player in. And to cut a long story short, we recruited a girl, Sarah, to do that, and it kind of totally rocked the kind of equilibrium of the band. It all derailed after that. It just went all wrong. So then when Kim left the band, and then it was just me and Ace, so we brought some new people in, and it was kind of all a bit of we did an EP. I mean, it's just about keeping it going really until you hit upon more of a stable lineup, which we did then, you know. We got to release the Knives EP we had Jules Millis,
2013.
Yeah, he was from a band in Australia. He's from Australia, and he was just traveled back and forth. He was a big fan as well, and we did that EP and did quite a few dates in Europe with him, and that was a really good period for a time. But then, you know, again, the logistics and just things were working, so Rob Wild kind of took over as the lead vocalist, and that was pretty stable for a number of years. But until last year, that went again. Became a problem, so you have to change it, and I know everybody wants the original lineups in bands, but it's why, you know, Ace Frehley and Peter Criss are not in Kiss, because the band doesn't work with them in it, and it's why, you know, so and so's not in this band or so and so's not in that band. I mean, sometimes people can't be in the bands, but even if they can and they're not in them, the reason is because the band doesn't work with them in it. So when the band stops working, you either give up and shut the band down, or you bring somebody else in. And my view is this is what I always thought, and again, coming back to Pepsi, I was thinking, we created this thing, it becomes more of a brand, and it's like the analogy I always use, it's like a football club, you know, Bayern Munich don't shut the club down when a football player leaves, you know what I mean? They change the squad every season, and so do many other football clubs, and the same in any sport world, you know. But it seems with bands, we harp back to the original lineup. But don't get me wrong, I'm the same. But I also appreciate that if you want the longevity of a band, you still want to go and hear those songs live. You have to cut them some slack, because it's nigh on impossible to have the same people in the band. I mean, you could count them on, you know, there's hardly any bands left that have got original lineups for one reason or another. It's because people get ill, they die, or people are arseholes, and you have to get rid of them. You know, they don't work. They're drunks. They're on drugs. They're, you know, they're unreliable. You name it. People are just people. So, you know, when you have a group of people and you want to maintain that band, like in the football club, you have to just keep recurring. You know, if someone's a problem, you get rid of it and bring somebody else in.
All personnel stand clear. All personnel stand clear. All personnel stand clear. All personnel stand clear. All clear.
you can stop the rock. This is a message I love, and the video is great. This is full of action, you know. Yes, it is. I played it already in my show. It's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a very intentional, concerted effort in writing that song and recording it, and also the for the video to do exactly that. It was to pay homage to what's gone on before in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It was to bring back some fun to music, because like I said, there's this big trend now on the really heavy stuff that everyone, all that kind of stuff, which, whatever's your thing. But we've always been about having a great time when you're playing music, it being fun, being rock and roll, and just all that big bombastic stuff, try and make it as 80s as we possibly could. So we went into a big venue in the UK called the KK Steel Mill, which is KK Downing. It's his kind of venue in the Midlands. A great venue, and created that kind of video that was purposely done to make it like just like an 80s, 70s, 80s big whoosh bombastic video with the band having fun, and that's what it was about.
I think so many metalheads, young metalheads. I mean, I remember when I was 15 when I saw AC/DC the very first time, and around me many elders, but also very young people. Same is like now. So over 40 years later, the young generation discover they have a feel for glass, for honest rock. It's like the vinyl came back. I mean, what is your point that a vinyl had a comeback? For myself, I am happy because I love the vinyl in the 80s, 70s, 80s. How is for you?
Yeah, me too. What I love about it more than anything else is that it allows you as a band. What I think is lost is that the music has become a non-business. Call it the music business. It's become a non-business, because a business is something where you create something and it costs you an amount of money and then you sell it for a profit. That's a business. And what has happened, the internet revolution and the way everything's become digitized and the way we record everything. Don't get me wrong, record companies always ripped you off, but what they had was an infrastructure around them that put money into you, and they also had a team of people that knew how to promote you as a band. But you spent big money on studios, you racked up these huge debts with them, and generally you never got paid, or if you did, it was small amounts, until you went big time through the roof. So it was very frustrating. And what changed with the internet revolution is, you can record now relatively cheaply for nothing on laptops and using all this software, Pro Tools, with all these plugins and things, and that's great. And you're empowered to release it yourself, your music, on the internet and all the streaming platforms. But there's no money in it, really. You can shift millions of units, and you're lucky if you're making a few $1,000s or pounds or whatever currency you're in. And it's not a physical thing anymore. So, like vinyl and the CD, you had a physical product that you could sell. It cost an amount of money to make. It cost quite a lot of money to make back in the day. But when you sold it for a profit, and somebody had something tangible in their hands to hold, And what it also was, more than anything else, I think, and with vinyl in particular, was an art form that's been completely lost. So those album covers that were so prolific, like the one behind me, ours was included in that, big double gatefold album with massive pictures, and you also put a load of text in there. There was also hidden material on the album covers that we as fans used to go and try and find. You'd even read the little etching around what was scratched into the middle of the disc, the LP disc. But the covers, the artwork were just incredible. I mean, you look at those, I could name them a million albums that are so incredible that you instantly see that album cover and that is, you know what I mean? You see Kiss Alive 2 and that's Kiss Alive 2. You open that gatefold and it still blows your mind now.
Yes. Or Shout at the Devil. Shout
at the Devil. But I mean, even before that, we're talking Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. I mean, the early AC/DC albums, and of course, Highway to Hell and Let There Be Rock, and If You Want Blood, with the guitar coming out. I mean,
this was my first album, my first hard rock album ever.
I mean,
blew my mind.
an absolute art form. And I remember, you know, myself as a young kid getting on the bus, going into my town to use my pocket money to buy those records, and I couldn't wait to get back on the bus and get home, and I would read every single thing on that album cover. You know, you would find everything. And that's a real art form that's lost, and I think it's so tragic. So, as I said, getting back to my point, I think the business, it's not a business anymore, because you don't actually have a physical, tangible product. You know, you're almost giving your music away free. About the only thing you can sell really is your t-shirts and merchandise and your live performance. You know, that's something that's worth money. But then the juxtaposition there is that's only worth anything if you've got a fan base. You know, so as a young artist coming up, how do you can have 10 million followers on Facebook, you're not going to send 10 million albums to people. It's just bullshit. You know, it's all in the ether. They're not real fans. They're not really going to go out and buy your music. And even if thousands of them do, your fraction of royalty from that is so minuscule, so minute.
This is for me very wrong, especially Spotify. There should be actually 90% for the creator and 10% for the platform, and not, but they are on the stock market, you know, and the musicians are starving them. You know, this is for me the vinyl comeback. Now you're listening to the songs, and before you switch and you know, on Spotify, next song. You not even listen to the whole song, maybe, you know, some, of course.
Yeah,
but
and that's exactly it. People, they don't even listen to whole albums anymore. So actually on that point, we're going to actually release our next 2 new tracks, which we've just recorded with Ashley, are going to be on an EP, a physical vinyl EP, and that's going to be released before it's ever released on Spotify and on streaming platforms. So if people want those new songs, the only way they're going to be able to buy them is to buy the physical product. You know, so there'll be a limited edition EP. That's what we'll have out now in the next couple of months. So side A will be 2 new tracks, and then side B will be You Can't Stop the Rock and 6X that we recorded with Ashley in December. So it'll be a 4-track EP that if you want those 2 new songs and you want to hear those first, you got to buy the physical copy. And it's mainly because it's in no way a money-making exercise. It's purely that's how you should listen to music on that platform. You know, we spent a long time writing and recording this stuff. You know, when you have a physical, tangible piece of vinyl in your hand with the cover, you can see it all real, you know, and there it is. And that's how it should be.
I agree 1000%.
Cool.
Jay, I need a picture, you and me, for that I will post this on Facebook saying I had Jay Pepper in the house. So let's do. I press the button and you make something, whatever. Okay. Count to 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. The last one I need from you, Jay, is a little message. So, hi, this is Jay Pepper from Tigertailz, and you're watching Metalheads Forever. That is important because I collect them, and I have so many cool videos from Marco Mendoza to David Rees to a lot, you know. So, would lovely to have you also, but
no
without
problem.
me.
Yeah.
Okay. Get rid of me and.
Hi, this is Jay Pepper from Tigertailz, and you're listening to Metalheads Forever. Rock on! Perfect.
I hope my English was not so bad because I'm a German. I'm half American as well, but I never be in America. But my father was in the army, so but I born and raised in Germany. I hope it was okay. My English for you. This is off the record now.
Believe me, your English is supreme to my German. So I respect anybody who can speak English, and I can't speak your language. So your English is perfect.
Jay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. And I'm still a fan since '87 when I heard the very first time, Young and Crazy. You're still young and crazy, my friend. Thank you so much for the time. Give my regards to the guys. Maybe you come back when the new EP comes out. I would love
definitely
to talk to you again.
No problem. Hey, Ritchie, thank you so much, fella. It's been a real pleasure and great to talk to you, man. Great show,
thank
too.
You so much.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. Still,
all right.
You can stop the rock, my friend, for sure.
You can, man. All right. Cheers, Ritchie.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye. Bye.
Your motivation shows